Howdy, folks. What's going on? This is the Outlaw Hatfield back at you again with something a little different. It's time for our monthly little wrestling chat me and the Sarge puts on. We haven't come up with any sort of real topics, I don't guess, but it is wrestling, so I'm sure between the two of us, we will come up with something. Sarge, how you doing tonight?
I am good. It is it's a little rainy out today. I was wanting to shoot some video, but I'm not fighting the rain. I'm just not doing it, and it's not good for anybody. So I don't want to get sick before the weekend. But other than that, I'm enjoying a day off. Just
I
messing
do
around the
not.
house.
I don't blame you at all. Shooting in the rain is not fun, and I am not a Marine, so I don't have to. So
And trying to record in the rain, and because I put the little charts up behind me and the paper targets, and I shoot them, and they're getting wet, and it's just not worth the fight. I'd rather wait a day or two and wait for it to dry out and do it right. So,
and we've actually got 3 people out there viewing already, so I wasn't expecting that. But
what's wrong with them?
Yeah, exactly. Hard up for pro wrestling entertainment, I guess. Well, you're not going to get it here. No, I'm just fucking with you here. Excuse my French. But yeah, this show is based around old school professional wrestling, as the name would imply, of course. So you're going to hear a lot of Ric Flair, Harley Race, Nick Bockwinkel talk. So probably throw in some Dusty Rhodes for good measure. What do you think, Sarge?
Oh yeah.
Out of those I just mentioned, who was your favorite?
Do you really need to ask?
Well, I kind of figured. I kind of figured you was going to lean toward Flair.
Even though, it's hard to resist the good guys. There was something about Ric Flair. I always liked him since I was a kid, even though he was a bad guy. He was a heel. I still was drawn to him and liked him. Now, Dusty Rhodes, I'm not going to say that this grown man didn't cry the day he died. I'd be lying if I said I didn't, because I watched him a lot as a kid, and yep.
I felt the same way. When the news came down that Dusty had died, I was actually at work that day, and I was taking a break, looking at the phone, and I just sit there, stared at my phone, wondering, okay, now what? Because to me, he epitomized that whole era of wrestling.
Oh, he did. He was bigger than the sport. He did commercials back when pro wrestlers didn't do commercials. Because what did he do? He was for and forgive me if I get it wrong and correct me if you know which one it is, but it was either BC or Stand Back, the pain reliever, whichever one it was. I don't think it was Goodies. I don't think Goodies was around at the time. It was one of the other two. And he did commercials for them on a national basis.
Yep. And people knew who he was.
Oh, he had a Top Fuel funny car, and that ran NHRA for a little while. Now, my dad told me that it was called, like I said, correct me if I'm wrong. We can look it up. I think it was Stardust is what it was called.
Huh.
And he said that he paid somebody to drive it, professional driver, and he would ride down in their tow vehicle, whatever they used at the time, and he would get in it and ride back when they'd tow him and pretend like he had driven it, wave at people and everything. That's what he said. Because at the time he grew up in Dusty spent a lot of time down in Florida, and my dad grew up down in Florida, not from Florida, but he grew up down there when he was racing, and said he saw him all the time.
Could you
I'm gonna look
imagine
it up right now.
Could you imagine hanging out with Dusty Rhodes?
What in the world did I just do? Hold on. Something just happened.
Okay.
Put me on mute.
Oh boy.
I don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen,
One
the
of my
Sarge
videos just started playing.
the Sarge is about to start cussing.
That was that video that I was trying to get uploaded for the last 20 minutes. I got it turned off.
Oh, okay, good.
There's no telling what I did say. I apologize for that, folks. I was trying to upload a camera, and for 20 minutes it was in La La Land, and then it just fired up on its own.
You know, we got a couple of mutual friends out there listening, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we got insights out there. Who needs to have his ass in here? I sent him a link for my early morning chat this morning. He never bothered to show up. That's okay. Black Cat's out there. John 12 Gauge, the gun snob. You know, all the people that we know, hang out with.
Black Cat, I'm sure he could interject into some of this stuff. He's out there in the chat, in the gun snob. I'm going to look that up real quick. That top fuel car while you're looking for other stuff.
Oh well, no, I ain't really looking up anything. But you know, could you imagine being around dusty roads in the early to mid 1980s? That would have been a party. That would have been the ultimate party right there. Because you got to think about who he was hanging out with at that point in time. I mean, on TV or in the matches, he was head to head with Ric Flair. But you know, when they were off on vacation somewhere, these guys were all hanging out together. So if you're hanging out with Dusty, you're hanging out with Rick. You're hanging out with Rick. You're hanging out with Tully. You're hanging out with Tully. You're hanging out with Arn or Ole and Lex and Barry, and it would have just been killer party after killer party after killer party with these guys. And you know, then you start throwing the other guys in the mix who would probably show up from time to time: the Road Warriors, Magnum TA, the Rock and Roll Express, who were notorious for doing some illicit materials. But
I found what I was talking about. I was wrong about the name, but if you don't care, I'll screen share it and show you.
Go ahead.
If you want to talk about some old school stuff that a lot of people don't know about. Let me get back over here to the Hangouts. You guys just bear with me while we screen share. And all right, we're going here. And can you see that?
Let's see, Dusty Rhodes.
Dusty Rhodes, and it says Cosmic Cowboy. That was the name of it. But there's the car that he sponsored, and there's the crew that operated it for him.
That is cool.
Back in the day, Dusty Rhodes, and that looks like it's written in like rope. Looks like that would be. And there he is on the side of it.
Yep.
Standing right there. I'm sure he's probably got that looks like the 10 pounds of gold around his waist right there. In that picture. So
he only held that big gold belt one time, didn't he?
I think that's the NWA title, it looks like, in that picture. You can barely see it. That's the dome globe.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. The 10 pounds of gold.
The old black and gold one.
Yeah. They still got it in NWA. They still have that belt. I don't know who has it right now, whether it's Cody Rhodes or whether it's is it Nick Aldis?
I think Nick got it back from Cody after.
Yeah, it's one of the two of them has it, but they still have the dome globe. Yeah. Not the one that Flair had made. Let me go ahead and turn this off now. Everybody's seen enough of that.
I don't know. I remember the first time I seen that gold belt Flair had made. That was a gorgeous professional wrestling belt.
Oh, it is. And he like you said, the one he had made, he owned that.
Oh yeah. And people ask, well, when Flair left the NWA and went to the WWF for that short time, why he took that title with him? Because at the time that happened, you actually had to put a payment down to hold the world title. They gave you the belt, but you put like a $20,000 of your own money down to say, hey, when you lose the belt, you get your money back. And
Ah.
there was a bit of an issue because, well, Flair wanted his money and they weren't going to give it to him. And so Flair said, hey, you don't give me the money, I'm taking the belt with me.
Mm-hmm. Because that
So
was his property. It
yeah,
didn't belong to the company.
and that's exactly what he did. He left
They
with the belt.
they made a mistake when he brought that belt in. They didn't purchase it from him. That's where they
So,
made the mistake.
oh yeah, they should have said, okay, well, we'll give you the $40,000 or $50,000 that cost to buy the belt from you. But no, they didn't. And because of all that, we had guys becoming world champions that probably never would have been a world champion otherwise. Barry Windham held that title in that little period, or a world title. Uh, Vader won it. Ron Simmons had it. Who else wore it during that little period?
I don't know.
But there was actually a bunch of them that in that couple of years when Ric Flair was in the WWF, that went back and forth with the title. I think Sting had it at one point. Ravishing Rick Rude, I think, might have had it at one point.
He had it. I know he had it. He had it for a while. I know that.
So, and then of course Flair came back and brought the big gold belt back with him. So,
What did they use while he was gone? I don't remember. Did they not have another one made?
well, yeah, they had two more actually. They had one that they called the World Championship, and then they had I think what was the Universal Championship or the International Championship or something.
I don't know. They kind of lost me a little bit when Flair left the South and went up north. What year was that?
Oh God, 90. I want to say 91, 92.
How would I find?
I would look up world champions of the early 90s, WCW, NWA world champions of the early 90s, because that was just, if I'm not mistaken, that was just after Ted Turner bought the NWA. So there was a
Okay.
lot. There was a lot going on in that time period in the business.
So he was gone from like 90 and 91, or
Yeah, he was gone for I think like a year and a half, 2 years. And then he came back and challenged. And when he came back, Van Vader was the champion. He went up against Vader for the title. So, and they had two big main titles at that point in time.
yeah, it looks like Flair came back and won the title in 93 and in Charlotte at Starrcade, the 10th anniversary of Starrcade.
Yep. And who'd he wrestle?
Right after Christmas.
And
Let me see. It doesn't say.
if
Oh,
I'm not
he would have had to. He beat Vader.
yeah,
Vader
because
won it
I
in Ireland.
I remember the interview he gave before that match when he first got back. He said, "Vader, I've said it for years. Being to be the man, you got to beat the man. But staying the man is the key." I think was the quote.
So he left in July of 91 is when he left with it. So let's find a Ron Simmons picture of him with the belt, and that'll tell us he only held it during that time period.
Oh, I know he held. Ron Simmons had it for a couple of months, and then he dropped it to Vader. If I've got my history correct here, which I may or may not have.
Yeah, oh yeah, here's that belt. Let me find some. Yeah, that's a pretty bad one.
Yeah. Ron Simmons won the belt from Vader and then lost it to Vader, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, there's a decent picture of it. Let me share this. All right.
Let's see what you got here, Sarge. Yeah, that's Ron Simmons with one of the belts.
Look how generic that is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's bad. That looks so WWE.
Yep.
That does not look like the old school Southern, NWA, WCW. That does not look like it at all. That's bad. Maybe I just block that out. I think there's several pictures here of it. Yeah, there's some other ones. Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yeah. But hey, they had to have something, and that's what they found. That's what they went with, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I think they could have come up with something better personally, but what the hell do I know?
And they probably needed something in a hurry, and there you go.
Yep, that's what they had laying around. I doubt very seriously they paid to have that belt made. But if I ain't mistaken, Jim Hurd was head of the programming at that point. So unless that's when oh God, what's his name took over? I can't remember his name now. Maybe it was Bob Orton. It might have been Cowboy Bob Orton that took over there for a little while.
I'm going to share one more thing because you may end up seeing one of these in the background here at some point.
Oh?
Of Sarge's studio.
I thought you already had a world title.
I got one. I got a cheap version of the big gold. It's cheap. It looks okay in pictures, but I may one day, you may look back here over my shoulder and see if Sarge ever becomes successful. That's going to be a gift to me. So I don't plan on ever getting this, but if the channel ever does well enough, that will be right back here in the background, the dome globe. So if it ever happens, I'll put a shelf up just for it. It'll be all gun stuff and one wrestling belt.
And that'll be the belt, huh?
That will be the one. That or there's another one that's always fascinated me. And since we're looking, let me show you. There's one more that I've always liked. It would be a TV title, the red one.
Oh yes, Tully's Arn and Tully's title.
That's the only one that had it. That was just the two of them.
No, Dusty wore it for a little while.
I don't count that.
You wait a minute. How could you not count Dusty's run as the television champion?
No, he was beyond that. Those two guys own that belt.
Oh, Arn Anderson literally owned that belt. I mean, he held it for how long?
Oh, I don't know. Him and Tully held it forever. Let's see here. Look at this. And the best part of it was exactly what we said. Look at that. It's got ABC, CBS. I don't know what the other two say, I don't know whether I could find a picture of them. Oh, here they are. Is that just looks like just generic artwork. But that one was only up for grabs the first 10 minutes of any match where the champion wrestled on TV. And it was only up for grabs the first 10 minutes.
Yep.
So if you beat him in 10 minutes and 10 seconds, well, good for you, but champ walks out with the belt. I've always liked that one.
I always loved the United States title.
And that's most of the time it had that red belt, that red leather. Sometimes it had the black leather, but it was more like that one right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
What, the U.S. title?
Yep.
Let's look at that.
That was always my favorite.
This version?
No. Big Silver.
Which one is it? That's a tag team.
Yeah, type in Magnum TA US title. I think
look
that's
at that old
right
one.
there.
This is the old one that Flair had. Okay. Let's look that up, and then I'm going to show you another one that could go on the wall. That one right there?
Yep, that'd be the one.
That's the one I just showed you.
Is it?
Yes.
I didn't think there was any red in it, though.
Oh, I was trying to... Yeah, that one right there.
Yeah, okay. Well,
there's old Terry Allen himself.
Yep, that's the man. That right there is and always will be my number one favorite, period. That man should have been a world champion, and had not been for a Porsche wreck, he would have been.
He would have. How about this old school one?
Mid-Atlantic, yeah.
Now that one could go up on the wall as well.
There was some big names held that title too.
Mm-hmm.
If I ain't mistaken, didn't oh God, what was that kid's name? Didn't Sam Houston have that title for a while?
He may have. Roddy Piper held that title. Ivan Koloff held it. There's like a new version, but this is the old school. Yep. Ivan Koloff held it. Roddy Piper. Several. Probably Ricky Steamboat.
I don't remember Ricky ever having it. I know Eddie Gilbert, I think, had it for a little while.
Oh, yeah. I think Steamboat held it.
Lord, talk about a rant down memory lane here, huh?
Oh, look right there. Hold on. I found it right off the bat. There he is. Pro Wrestling Illustrated. The Mid-Atlantic Championship.
There it is. Loved me some Ricky Steamboat as a kid, man. It was just freaking awesome.
There's that U.S. title that several of them held. There it is. So,
there's just a topic. If I've got us a topic. What do you think are some of the greatest wrestlers in the business to never hold one of the two major titles, world titles?
Which, well,
there ain't but two major ones in there, any NWA or WWF.
Hands down, the greatest to never hold a title, in my personal opinion, would be Arn Anderson.
Yeah, he would be up there near the top anyway, wouldn't he? I would also have to. I'd have to go up and say Scott Hall.
True.
Scott Hall never held either of those world championships, and he should have. He had all the ability in the world.
He was a much better wrestler than people give him credit for. They get hung up on his antics outside the ring and his post wrestling career and his addiction. And and whatnot, but inside the ring, he was fantastic. He could do it.
Oh, yeah. Tully Blanchard would be on that list.
Yes.
Because, again, he had all the ability in the world. And I think the only thing that kept Tully from ever having that world title was Ric Flair. If Ric Flair hadn't have been in the picture, I think Tully would have been a multiple-time world champion. Even with his height disadvantage. Because he wasn't a very tall guy. He wasn't very big.
No, he's no taller than I am. It's just, it's when, like he would say, because I think he was, when the time he was in his heyday, he was like 5'11", 220.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a big guy. 220. Yeah. That's a big man. And but he said you got Arn that's like 6'3" and like 270. You look small compared to those guys that are 3 and 4 inches taller.
Yep.
And 50 pounds heavier.
Let's see, who else could we add on to that wonderful list of wrestlers who should have but never did? At the beginning of his career, I would have said, or even toward the middle, I'd have said Buff Bagwell, because he was good. He was really good. But he just got terrible during the last 5 years of his wrestling career. He was just awful. Junkyard Dog. Junkyard Dog, I think, should have been up there in that list because he was good.
I know he was popular. I don't remember just how great he was. I just don't remember. I remember when I was a kid, he was really popular. But as far as remembering how well he did, I don't. I'll tell you one that would have done well would have been and there's one that I forgot exactly how he got out of wrestling, but then there's one that should have been a world champion, but he didn't have any mic work. That's Brad Armstrong.
Yeah, Brad Armstrong was good.
He'd make anybody look good. Anyone.
Yep.
And he could do anything, and he looked good. He was extremely athletic. He fit the bill. I guess he just didn't have any personality, or I'm not exactly sure why they couldn't even push him along after that.
Some of them were they were good at what they did, but they had no mic skills whatsoever.
Yeah. Terry Taylor.
Terry Taylor was another good one who might have. Mike Rotunda.
Yep.
Mike Rotunda had all the skill in the world. Why he never managed to become a world champion is beyond me.
Buzz Sawyer. Remember him?
Yeah, I remember Buzz. The thing about Buzz, though, he was like a Kevin Sullivan. He was out there.
He was.
He was one of those guys that was good as a heel. But do you want that particular heel to be the one carrying the company? What the heck was that?
It's my alarm going off.
Oh, were you expecting something?
No.
No, I was just wondering. But yeah, Buzz Sawyer was good. I'm not sure I would want to put him in a world title situation. And he had some great matches. I mean, him and Tommy Rich used to tear the freaking house down. What was that last battle in Atlanta match with Tommy Rich and Buzz Sawyer? That was a brutal match. Again, we can talk about Magnum TA. He never had that title. Nikita Koloff never held the world title. And I think Nikita had all the goods to do it. He had the height, the strength, the weight. He was good on a mic, even with that phony Russian accent that nobody knew was phony at the time.
Oh, yeah. They didn't know. They didn't know he was from Minnesota.
Yeah, exactly. He was just very good at that Russian act. Do you know he actually took some Russian classes so he would have some phrases to use when he was on the mic?
Really?
Yeah, he actually learned some Russian just so he could push the character that much further. Jake the Snake Roberts was never a world champion in either of those two companies. There's just so many that should have been that never was. And again, Jake had all the tools and had one of the most devastating finishers in the business at the time.
Oh yeah. Well, he had two.
That short arm clothesline.
Remember when he used to do the knee lift?
Yeah. Yeah.
The knee lift was awesome with the back slap and it just looked like it was awful.
Oh yeah.
Well, so and then the DDT came in after that.
Yeah. He would set them up with a short arm clothesline, pick them up, and then DDT them.
He'd pull them into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he would pull them into it, and then he used to have the knee lift. I know when he was in NWA Mid-Atlantic, he had the knee lift. And when he went, because you remember he used to wear the loose pants.
Yeah. Sort of like a karate gi.
Yeah, they look like karate pants. And he had that knee lift. And then the DDT came after that.
Yep. Now, did he come up with the DDT on his own, or he had somebody else helping him with that, or what?
I don't know.
You know, that's a piece of the history that I would love to find out. Who was actually the guy that helped him come up with the DDT? Let's see. We got Adams out there. We've got a few others showed up. Alaska 556. How you doing, buddy? Jerry Lawler, one of the greatest to never hold one of them. Jerry Lawler actually did hold the NWA title, and if I'm not mistaken, he also held the AWA title.
I'd say he would have been very likely to have the AWA title out there, since it was from the Midwest. I guess the north end of the Midwest, Minnesota and all that area up through there. So being out in Memphis, I think they were involved with AWA out there.
And as far as Rick Rude, yes, Rick Rude held the NWA title at one point. I'm not sure how long he had it, but I know I can't remember that much, but I know he had it for a while. I'm trying to think. Terry Taylor never held either of them, and you had mentioned him earlier. Arn Anderson. Arn Anderson was one of them that you had mentioned, and yeah, I agree. He should have definitely had a world title on his waist at some point.
Let's look at the list of champions. Yeah, I don't think you're going to see. You're not going to see Terry Taylor on that list.
Yeah, you're not going to see Roddy Piper on there either.
No.
No, and that is unfortunate.
Barry Windham won it in Asheville.
Yes.
For 147 days. The Great Muda.
Yeah, Muda didn't hold it very long. I think he only held it for like a month and a half, 2 months.
Yep. Masahiro Chono.
He held it for about a month and a half.
He held it about 6 months.
Did he?
Yep. Shane Douglas held it for an afternoon.
I think the shortest reign on the books would probably be with Sting, who held it for like 45 minutes.
Chris Candido, Dan Severn. This is once it left the control of
Crockett.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a bunch in here.
But once you get past 90, it switches from being the NWA World Title to the WCW, and then you have a whole list of other guys.
Yeah, Dan Severn held it for like 4 or 5 years in a row after it left, like you said, WCW.
Because once the WCW got it, had their world championship and dropped the NWA thing. I think the first guy to actually have that title then was Ric Flair. The first official run for a WCW world title was Ric Flair. And if I'm not mistaken, he lost it to Hogan.
I don't remember. Let's see. There we go. List of WCW champions.
And where does that start?
Starts in 91.
Okay. So right in that time period would have been Ron Simmons, Barry Windham would have been in there, Van Vader, Sting. I'm trying to think of who else, because there was a few of them in that little time frame between 91 and 93 that it jumped from several different people.
The Giant held it.
Yep.
Randy Savage held it twice, at least.
And that was prior NWO, by the way.
Mm-hmm. And Goldberg, where he won it down in Atlanta.
And that was in 97.
98.
Really? That was 90. That's right. Oh, you're right, because he had started his winning streak in 97 and went through to 98. He beat Scott Hall that night and then went on to wrestle Hogan later that night one time. And he was the United States and the World Heavyweight Champion at the same time on that night.
Yep. I don't know where. I could have swore Rick Rude held it, but I'm not seeing him in here.
Oh, he definitely held it.
What years?
But at that time, I think it might have been still the NWA title or the international title. The International World Heavyweight. Look up the International World Heavyweight Championship, because it was two different belts.
Oh my God, they recognized David Arquette.
Yeah. Did they really?
It's in here.
Dear God.
Oh, they recognize Vince Russo also.
Well, and thus started the dark days of the WCW and the downfall.
Yep. I'm just going to have to look up Rick Rude. I'm not find which title it was. We'll just see which one he had.
And actually, Rick Rude held the International Championship, the International World Heavyweight Championship on 3 different occasions. Ric Flair was the first. He was the final, but the most was Rick Rude with 3. The longest reign was Rick Rude with 178 days. Shortest reigns was Hiroshi Haas at 8 days.
Now, which one was that?
The WCW International World Heavyweight Championship.
And what year was that?
That would have been, let me see here, 90, between 93 and 94.
Oh, there it is. Huh. Yeah, they just called it something different.
Yeah.
It's the same belt.
Yep. It's one of those things that they count against Ric Flair's 16 title runs. They don't claim that title to be part of his 16. And if you count those 2 runs, that brings the total up to 18. If you count the runs he had as World Heavyweight Champion in smaller organizations, He's got like 26, 27 world title runs. So he's held more world titles than anybody else in the business, period. So all those people out there that's talking about how John Cena has passed or will pass Ric Flair's record, he's got a long way to go.
No, that's they're manufacturing that to try to gain a record. That's not the same thing.
No, I know it's not the same thing. There's no way.
No, it's not the same thing.
There is no way John Cena is ever going to catch that record. And for them to even try is just monotonous. I mean, you're talking about a guy that had been wrestling for 30 years. And 20 of them was before John Cena ever was even in the business.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, Ric Flair would lose a title and win it back in a week. Hell, what was it? He lost the title in, oh God, where was it? I think it was in Japan. He had lost it and then 2 or 3 days later won it back.
I know he lost
the same thing in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, he lost it in Puerto Rico or the Dominican Republic against what had been arranged because the crowd had gotten so nuts. He didn't think he was going to get out of the arena alive, so he lost the belt, got out of there, wrestled, I think it was 3 days later, for the title, had the plane ready to go. He won it back, got out of the arena, got on the plane, and left the island.
And never went back.
Nope. They said that was when he went around the world with the championship. That was one of the I guess part of the mystery of it all is you had to come back with it, because they said it was not outside the realm of possibility that they were going to set you up and actually try to beat, have a shoot match, beat them, and take it.
Yep.
So there was some other stuff that went on.
Oh yeah, behind the scenes there was a lot of cutthroat shit.
Yeah, they might just keep it. You went to Japan, they may end up in a real fight and they'll try to take it.
Well, that's why when Ric Flair went to these places, he always had people with him to watch his back just in case.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you never see Ric Flair go overseas without Dusty Rhodes being there and the Road Warriors and whatever you've seen on TV was one thing. You try to fuck one of the Americans in one of these other countries, well, you're going to have a whole shitload of pissed off American wrestlers on your hands. And I don't know about y'all, but I would hate to have Road Warrior Hawk punch me in the jaw. I say he looked like that motherfucker hurt you. or Bruiser Brody. Could you imagine having him?
Oh my God.
Oh, sheesh.
That dude just did whatever he wanted to.
And didn't care. Didn't care.
I mean, how are you going to stop him?
Exactly.
You don't realize how big that guy is, because he was, he didn't look overly tall because he was in proportion and moved really well and was a genuinely athletic guy. He's 6'8".
Yeah, he was huge.
And moved around well. I mean, he moved around like a 6 foot tall guy.
He moved around like the Undertaker.
Yeah. No, he moved around better, I think.
I don't know.
I think he moved around better than the Undertaker.
You didn't see him doing too much rope walking.
Well, that's theatrics.
Yeah, it might be, but still, when you're 6'8", 6'9", you're walking damn ropes for 3 feet. That's impressive.
Hey, he got killed in the shower down in Puerto Rico?
Yep, they stabbed him to death.
Yep.
Sure enough, another wrestler stabbed him, killed him.
Locker room completely full of people. No one saw anything.
Yeah, exactly. Well, nobody saw anything at the time. Years later, they're talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Well, that wrestlers getting pissed off and fighting other wrestlers is part of the game. Who was it? Arn Anderson that stabbed the shit out of Sid Vicious?
I thought we determined this. I thought it was the other way around.
It might have been. It might have been, but I know there were scissors involved and people got cut up.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Sid that stabbed him.
I don't know who stabbed who. All I know is it caused a great old big mess.
We got to get some guests in here. We got to ask some of these guys these questions.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I've reached out to several of them, and the only response I get is zilch, nothing, dead air. So if any of you guys know a way to get a hold of any of these individuals that we're talking about from the 70s and 80s and 90s, gentlemen, can jump on the show with us one night. We'd love to have them. I mean, grant you, anybody that listens to my or Sarge's other shows, you realize that we do a lot of politics and gun stuff. But, this show we're sticking mainly with professional wrestling. We're not straying away from that subject line too much. Unless we're talking about, politics and professional wrestling or in professional wrestling. And you would be surprised how much of that there actually is. Did you ever hear about the messes that came up with guys getting color in certain states?
With what?
They'd be in a state that's athletic commission wouldn't allow them to bleed, but they'd do it anyway. They get the shit fined out of them.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. Apparently that happened a lot. Especially in the old territory days. Which makes sense. Now you get two guys. I mean, you see a Ric Flair Dusty Rhodes wrestle match, you expect Ric Flair to be busted open before the end of it. And probably Rhodes too. You see a cage match, you're expecting somebody to bleed before the end of it. You know? Would you really want to see a like a War Games match that didn't have Ric Flair bleeding all over the place?
Oh no.
Yeah. You making people believe he's absolutely dying inside the ring, and still ends up on top somehow or another, by hook or by crook. I was watching some old matches this morning, and one of the ones I was watching was the old Ric Flair versus Jerry Lawler match in Memphis. Did you ever see that?
See which one?
The Ric Flair versus Jerry Lawler match in Memphis.
No.
It's a pretty interesting situation. Ric Flair is in Memphis to wrestle some jobber. Jerry Lawler comes out and is kissing Ric Flair's ass, basically telling him how great he is and how wonderful he is. And he says, "Look, we know you're great. We know you can beat the guy in the ring. Hell, I could beat the guy in the ring. So why don't, instead of you wrestling him, you wrestle me?" And of course, after a little while, Ric Flair agrees to it and agrees to put up the world title. And Flair gets disqualified. So apparently, Jerry thinks that he's won because of disqualification. And that's when Ric Flair comes out and puts the bounty on Jerry Lawler's head for, what was it, $20,000, $50,000, something like that. So when he comes back, he didn't have to worry about Jerry Lawler anymore.
Well, I found a good version of the stabbing.
Okay.
Well, we're both right.
And
Something happened in a bar. Sid showed up where they were both at. Some sort of drunken escapades took place. I guess Sid Vicious didn't appreciate what happened. There's something in reference to a beer mug being thrown, but it's all different versions of it. So he went to Orange's room to speak with him about it, and again, two different versions of the events. Orange says that he came in and started beating on him. Sid says that it escalated and things happened, but Orange says that he got on top of him. He started beating on him. That Sid started beating on him. He grabbed a pair of scissors, stabbed him in the stomach. They fought some more. Sid got a hold of the scissors and just kept stabbing Arn, and like it cut his throat. Stabbed him 20 times with them. Cut his throat. Almost got him in the eye. It was apparently insanity took place.
yeah.
So they both got cut up pretty bad, which is ridiculous.
Yes, well, but again, you have to look at who you're talking about.
There was a chair leg involved. I guess he showed up at the door with a chair leg, handily enough, but yet he didn't start it. So
yeah,
what?
Well, it is what it is. I figure somebody showed up at my door with a chair leg, I'd be looking for a weapon too.
Yeah, I think that was his intent. So either way, it's a wonder neither of them got killed.
Can I do math? Sometimes. It depends. I can do a little math here and there. Midnight Range is out there. Squib's out there. Drucifer's out there. We're picking up some viewers.
Did Vicious stab Nancy?
Who do you see said that?
Midnight.
Oh, well. Of course.
He's always good for the comic relief.
Yeah. It's good that he's good for something.
Yeah.
He don't know a whole lot about professional wrestling anyway, so. What do you expect? What do you expect from a fry cook? Besides that, shouldn't you be making somebody's waffles at this point in time of day?
There's always somebody wanting waffles.
Yeah, exactly. You're in here, somebody's starving to death. You need to fix that shit. I don't know, Sarge. I mean, we've had several of these conversations at this point, and I think you and I can agree on a couple of things for sure. Ric Flair is one of the greatest of all time. Not the greatest, mind you, but one of.
The greatest.
No, one of. One of. Magnum TA is still the greatest.
He didn't have as many moves.
He didn't need as many. It was Magnum TA for crying out loud.
He had a big punch. He had a belly suplex and like a drop kick, and I mean, he didn't have nearly as many.
Okay, who would you personally put up second to Ric Flair?
Second
to Ric Flair.
All time?
Yes.
You put me on the spot.
Of course. That's what I'm good for.
Although he should have wrestled in a different era, I'm going to have to go, and I'm not going to say my favorite, but I am going to say probably the second best is going to be Triple H.
Okay, yeah.
That's just going to be the second best, man. Not necessarily my favorite, even though he's good. That's just, I think, the second best. And I'm trying to rack my brain and think of others, which I would probably think of others.
Okay, how about Ricky Steamboat?
Oh, I mean, I'm going to come up with a handful and name them like all. I'm going to put like 10 wrestlers in the top 3 because there's a handful that were all just
really good.
There's no way to differentiate. You know, you got Dusty, you got Ric Flair, You've got
And I love the way you put Dusty before Flair. That was great.
like I said, you got Dusty, you got Flair, like I said, Triple H, Harley
Savage.
Race, Randy Savage. I've got a bunch that. How do you tell which one's better? You can't.
Exactly.
One's a little better at this, one's a little better about that, but they all sold out the house and they all got the crowd into it. And there's just so many that you can't rank. There's like an elite class, and then there's no point in ranking those guys.
I'd have to agree with you. I mean,
that's just me.
Well, no, I agree with you. Honestly, I agree with you. I mean, because like I said, you can sit here and name off the people: Sting, Ric Flair, Magnum TA, Dusty, Randy Savage,
Nikita
Koloff, Roddy Piper. And like we was talking earlier, it's an absolute shame Roddy Piper was never a world champion.
Mm-hmm. Because he went to that cartoon style and they just used him for their benefit. Where if he would have stayed somewhere else with the more wrestling style, he would have been. He was well on his way here.
Oh yeah. Left.
I say here, being the South.
Yeah. If he would have stayed in the NWA in the early 80s, before 1984, he would have been a world champion.
Yes.
He would have been a world champion.
No doubt.
But with that being said, Vince McMahon saw money where he saw money.
And they did really well at what they do.
Yeah.
They market to a completely different audience. And their market is always changing. They market to kids. For anyone that doesn't watch much of this stuff, they market to kids. So there's always every year there's a different group of 6 and 7-year-olds that start watching their wrestling. The
only time that ever changed was in the 80s or the 90s during the Monday Night Wars.
I'm a full-grown adult and it didn't offend me, but man, they got so far out there. I'm like, this is idiotic. There's people here. I'm looking. I was like, there's people came to your event with kids, and you're gonna act like this in front of the kids.
Yeah,
like, come on. I can handle it, but come on.
That was how Vince McMahon decided to fight the Monday Night War. WCW did some out there things, but never anything as over the line.
They still kept it clean.
Yeah. And then he goes from that extreme to what we got now, the PG era, where, it wouldn't surprise me if you see Barbie and Ken out there wrestling the Powerpuff Girls. Come on, give me a break.
Yeah. Well, that's why, and we talked about it a little bit before we go on air, and I'm going to have to start studying more on this. NWA is owned by, and excuse me if I say his name wrong, is it Corrigan or Corrigan? I don't know whether
I'm not sure which way it's pronounced, but I know who you're talking about.
The lead singer from the Smashing Pumpkins. He bought NWA almost 2 years ago. He was apparently with TNA prior to that, running their program, and they had he was a backer of it, and they had some issues. But anyway, I was reading an article about him in this deal. He has got a legitimate plan to try to bring NWA back to glory and to be an actual contender to compete with WWE. And what we were talking about before is NWA and old school pro wrestling appealed to adults. Their power base was like men. I think it was like 40 to 60 or 35 to 55. That was their power base. That's where they made their money. That's the ones that bought the tickets, that bought the stuff, that brought their kids. That's the ones that did it. And WWE is their power base is kids that makes their dads come to the wrestling with them. So he's recognized that, and he's trying to keep the older fans as they get older and still trying to gain a little bit younger base without losing the older ones. So he's got a good plan and he understands his audience, which is good. And what is it? They sold out Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, in a matter of minutes.
And pissed Vince McMahon off to no end.
Oh, it pissed him off to the point where Vince McMahon made a phone call to Madison Square Garden, and Madison Square Garden told him that they couldn't shut the show down because the lawyers got involved with it. And
yeah,
no matter how much money Vince McMahon has, he does not have the backing that they had at that point in time.
Well, Madison Square Garden has to exist. It's existed. They have to have events. They have to have, concerts. They have to have everything. Vince McMahon doesn't own that just to use at his pleasure. Yes, he is a good customer of theirs, but they have other customers. So when he brings his show there, I guess several times a year, it sells out. But when NWA and New Japan had their show, what did it sell out in minutes?
Yeah. And not only that, they went head to head with a Vince McMahon show that was just right down the road.
It's like in driving distance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's fixing to be some new Monday Night Wars, hopefully, or some sort of wrestling
war.
And
there needs to be.
Well, everybody watched both shows back then just to see what one was going to do to the other.
And I would love to see the NWA come back and get back to the wrestling. I mean, if you've watched any kind of a wrestling match on any of the WWE shows of late, they don't wrestle. How many times during a match do you see a suplex? How many times do you see a backbreaker? How many times do you see, a leg lock or, something like that, an abdominal stretch or hip toss?
Oh my gosh. Abdominal stretch.
Yeah. You don't see that anymore. I want to see two guys get into a ring and have a wrestling match. You don't see that. It don't exist.
Oh no, you're right. They don't. And I think maybe it was because I was younger, but then I go back and I watch the matches now on YouTube and stuff, which is it's good that we have these. We can watch this stuff because when you're younger, you couldn't watch it. You saw it when it was on, or you didn't see it. You read about it 4 months later in Pro Wrestling Illustrated. If you didn't watch it, you missed it.
Yeah,
but
seriously.
You go back and watch it, and I thought it was just because I was a kid, it looked more real. Well, it did look more real. I mean, yeah, you still had to use your imagination, and you still had to want to believe, but it was a whole lot easier to believe it back then. And like I've mentioned here before, you could open up your local paper, and if the wrestling matches had been in town or in the area, because we get the Asheville paper, and if they had been at the Asheville Civic Center, the results were in the sports section the next day.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, this was a choreographed event. We'll just call it what it is. It was an athletic event, but it was determined, but it still had the mystique, and everybody bought into it, and it could make its way into the sports section. And that's just the coolest thing to me.
Yeah, and you have to remember at that day and time, a lot of people still bought it. A lot of people still thought, hey, this stuff's real. They're killing each other in that ring.
Like I said, it was you had people that legitimately thought it was real. Then you had the other ones. I was like, no, it's not real. But sometimes they get upset at each other, and sometimes they do get pissed off, and they got into it the other night. They said, it looks straight up real. Even the ones that knew it wasn't real thought sometimes it was, because they'd get into it and get pissed off. So,
and here's the greatest part about it. Here's the greatest part. At times, it really was real because they'd get pissed off at each other in during a match, and they'd start really pounding on each other. But it was so good. The rest of the matches were so good, the audience couldn't tell the difference.
Oh yeah, well, go watch Steven Regal and Goldberg.
Oh yeah, Steven stretched his ass.
Yeah. I mean, and then Goldberg had to revert back to his MMA training. And I mean, did they get into a straight up fight? No, they did not. But they wrestled very uncooperatively and stiff. And he had to use a couple MMA moves to get him under control.
And that was the only way he did get him under control.
Exactly. And it was something that took place on TV in front of millions of people, in front of thousands of people in the crowd, something that went completely off the rails. And now you got to figure out how to get it back on the rails, and not, Goldberg had to figure out how to get it back on the rails because he was getting shown up by someone that wasn't going along with it. And luckily he's strong enough and athletic enough. He was able to get him back under control. And I guess he got done proving his point and it finished out. But you don't know how those things are going to go. I mean, look up Rick Steiner and Chris Champion.
Oh God.
He delivers I think it was Chris Champion. Is that who it was?
Yeah, I think so.
He delivered like a stiff kick to Steiner, who obviously saw red. And he came up and clotheslined him so hard that he knocked him out. And I swear I thought he killed him, but knocked him straight out because he's like that.
Yeah. The Steiners were known as being legitimately tough guys.
Rick was I mean, he was, yeah. Scott, yes, I'm sure he is tough. He's big, he's strong, he's athletic. Rick just looked like he was mean.
Oh yeah.
And would be awful to try to deal with.
He literally lived his gimmick.
Yeah. He looked like he would just be mean, strong, had that strength of being a Division I wrestler. He would just be completely awful to deal with. I mean, Scott looks scary. Rick looks just
mean.
Yeah. He's the one of the two you'd really have to worry about. Let me see.
I wouldn't want to face either one of them in a dark alley. I'll tell you that.
Nope.
I don't think your Indian Deathlock would work too well on that.
No. It would not in the least.
In fact, I think he'd probably laugh at you when you tried. Let me show you how to do that for real.
It was a modified version of the Indian Deathlock, and it does work.
Oh, I'm sure.
I've used it more than once.
Yeah, but still, your name's not Rick Steiner, and good Lord, man. There's about 5 different ways to actually use that maneuver, right?
No.
Yeah, I've seen about 5 different versions of the Indian Deathlock over the years. And neither of the bunch looks fun to me. They all look like they'd suck. And then once you modify it, you can get it into an STF or go several other ways with it. And either way, it's going to freaking suck.
Well, here, if you want to watch the Chris Champion, I'm sure these videos aren't copyrighted. They're on YouTube, so we can watch them if you want to.
Well, sure.
If you want me to screen share it, I fast forwarded to the good part, and then after that, I gotta bail out here in just a minute and go get the kids.
Yeah, I know. I seen your
school.
Yeah, I seen.
But let me share this real quick. This is when let's see. We're sharing. We're going to YouTube. Here we go. Can you see that?
Yep.
There's Chris Champion There's Chris Champion with his mega mullet. So let's watch. He gets called in and he's cleaning house. Oh yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Crowd's going crazy.
7, 8, 9.
And
Irish whip. Backdrop.
And
There's
at
the
this
kick.
point, he knew he'd screwed up.
Yeah.
Let's watch that.
He caught him good.
I don't know whether that was the one. He's not happy. And
No, that was it.
That was straight up in the mouth.
Yeah.
Let's watch that. I think that one glanced at him. This one, I think, pissed him off. He is not happy in the least, and he does what Rick Steiner does.
Boom.
That's not a finishing move.
No.
That's not a finishing move. That's someone that got knocked silly. They're not even selling it. I think they're going to drag him out by the foot because that's Jerry Garvin over there. That's
Oh yeah, he got him good. Look at that.
Yeah, that's Jerry Garvin. That's his partner, and he knew. Like, nope, I'm not talking to him right now.
No, you don't want to piss Rick Steiner off.
Oh,
and it knocked him for a flip. Did you see that?
And that's the last we saw of Chris Champion, because if he can't do any better than that, I think they said, Garvin stayed away from him because he was just going to let him be mad. Yeah, just let him be mad and stay away.
Would you like to be the guy that pisses off Rick Steiner?
No, exactly. Not at all. Not with those cannonballs he had for delts and whatever. He just looked awful. Like he'd just be terrible to try to deal with.
Yeah, seriously. Okay, guys, we're going to shut this one down. Sarge has got to go pick up the kids.
I think we need to pick out matches for the next one, or like a wrestler, and maybe we'll come up with our highlight reel or something like that.
Okay, we can do that.
I'll cue some stuff up, and I'll take some notes. That's what we need to do. We need to like pick people. So if anybody has a theme, shoot me an email, shoot Outlaw an email, and we'll start going through these guys and look at some of their highlights.
Yeah, because we're not beyond sitting with a specific wrestler all night. We could do that.
Oh,
we got the knowledge to talk about anybody you want to talk about in that era. Anyway, we're going to cut this one short. Sarge, I'd like to say thank you for stopping by.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
This is a joint collaboration, so it wouldn't be the Sarge and Outlaw show without the Sarge. So, and how about next time we run it on your channel?
Okay.
That
sounds good. Yep. We will we'll pick a theme. At some point, maybe we'll get some response back and get some guests. If anybody out there knows anyone that was in this business that has just the least little in that could let these guys know that we're okay, because like me and you were saying, they probably have people go through their emails. They probably get so many emails from the lasting fame of doing this stuff in the 70s and 80s and 90s that they don't know us from anyone, and they just probably goes right into the spam folder and goes on. But if anybody knows anyone that was in this era, maybe was worked at an arena, maybe did some of this stuff on the side, or has a relative that did this, that could get us the least little in to where we could interview some of these people and let them know that we're not just legit. A couple. Yeah. I mean, we just really want to talk about it. We're not just I guess we are actually just two guys, but we want to talk about it respectfully and talk about the era. So, so if anybody has anything, that would be wonderful. Yeah, feel free to shoot us an email.
Me and Sarge has had many off the air conversations like this, and
we've had on the air ones.
Oh yeah.
Where we've hijacked the chat.
Yeah, we've done that more than once, and we've upset some people in the process. Yes. There's Sarge's beer, by the way.
There's my beer. I got a video coming up. You'll see the beer decal and where I got it, or the beer patch.
Anyway, guys, I thank you all for showing up. Sarge, you got anything to say?
No, I do. I wanted to go outside and shoot today, but Mother Nature is not cooperating in the least. I don't know whether I'll get outside tomorrow, because unless this blows through, the chances of rain are anywhere from 50% up to 100. So I have some stuff all laid out and planned out, and it's just I'm not fighting the rain anymore. I'm not doing it. I've got an unboxing I filmed this afternoon. I'm going to I'll get that out tonight, and join us tomorrow night at 9 p for the Sarge and Boomer show at 9 p East. We're going to come up with a topic for that. And like I said, watch my unboxing video, and you'll see where I got the beer patch at. So I appreciate the invite.
Yep.
To our
Take
own
care,
show.
Sarge. Adios, guys. Y'all have a good one. We love you. We'll talk to you later.